there's just the aggressive tactics that we are seeing in video after video. You're comfortable with those tactics that we're all seeing with our own eyes?
We're at a place in this country where all of a sudden the ones who enforce the law are the bad guys and the ones who broke the laws are victims. I'm going to trust the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol who've been trained very well. They're doing the right thing. But I'll say again, if someone does something inappropriate, out of policy, illegal, they need to be held accountable. But I simply think I haven't seen that. And again, I'm not in every arrest. I'm not in every operation. I trust the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol to do the right thing.
That's CNN host and equine reporter Dana Bash getting a reality check after trying to paint ICE as the problem instead of the criminals they're dealing with. She attempts to once again emotionally blackmail Homan, only to have him point out that liberals and establishment media would rather side with criminals than law enforcement. Welcome to Nerk News, I'm Nerkish, and it looks like CNN has decided its top priority is shielding illegal immigrants from accountability rather than acknowledging the chaos created over the last 4 years. Because when Democrats hand out sanctuary policies and ignore millions of gotaways, suddenly the media pretends basic enforcement is some shocking overreach. Minneapolis is dealing with the fallout of mass third world migration and a political class that refuses to admit what's happening on the ground. Here's Bash whining about Trump's garbage comment while conveniently ignoring every negative thing Democrats and her network have said about people they don't like.
The president said very clearly this week that he doesn't want Somali immigrants in America. He called them garbage.
No, I think President Trump's referring to public safety threats as national security threats from Somalia and every other country.
Well, he didn't say that. He said
he's been clear from day one.
He talked about the whole community.
I agree with President Trump. From day one, he has said, we are concentrating on public safety threats and national security threats. He was put in the Oval Office to run the biggest deportation operation this country's ever seen. That's exactly what we're doing. That's what American people voted for. So there's numerous countries that President Trump's, is looking at everybody that came from these countries, make sure they're vetted properly. Some of these countries don't have the proper systems in place to totally vet somebody, so we don't know who they really are. So President Trump's taken upon himself in this administration to make sure anybody that came to this country illegally that we find, and those that came in through a vetting process that weren't properly vetted, because they don't have the database and information to ensure they're properly vetted, that we're going to relook at those cases and make sure they're properly vetted. And we have all the data we have from them. Some of these countries don't have the databases we have. And some of these countries don't even do the proper checks before they issue a passport to their citizens to come to this country. So President Trump's doing the right thing. Make sure everybody that came in legally came in through proper vetting, especially from countries that are related to terrorism or are somehow related to high numbers of overstays or high number of criminal aliens in this country. That's what he's doing. He's protecting America, and I agree with 100% what he's doing, Dana.
The outrage over this garbage comment rings hollow. Democrats and establishment media turned a blind eye to Biden himself, using the exact same language to smear Trump supporters. I don't recall outraged celebrities tweeting "no human is garbage" then. And I'm sorry, but this is a problem. I mean, Minnesota now has around 107,000 Somalis, most clustered in the Twin Cities, making it the largest Somali community in America. When you stack that on top of a sanctuary city that won't cooperate with ICE, pretending this is some minor bookkeeping issue is insulting. And frankly, it's insane that one culturally foreign bloc has concentrated enough power to run mayoral campaigns entirely in Somali and push a new state flag that practically mirrors their home country. Liberals assume that because they hate America, everyone else must hate their own country too, but Somalis like Omar have openly described America as nothing more than a tool to advance Somali interests. This is how you undermine democracy, importing massive numbers of people who reject your history and values, refuse to assimilate, and are now being handed voting power inside a country they intend to exploit, not join.
This is about scaring people more than it is about arresting criminals. So what have you actually accomplished with this operation so far in Minnesota?
Well, we're just starting, and I disagree with the fact that people, even we don't know how many illegal Somalis they are, because remember, in the last 4 years in Joe Biden, there's over 2 million gotaways, known gotaways, people caught on video, drone traffic or sensor traffic that crossed the border illegally and weren't apprehended, weren't vetted. And so, what President Trump's doing is fixing the last 4 years of the open border where millions of people are released in this country, many we don't know who they are.
Now, that Somali community in Minnesota is about 80,000 people. The vast majority are U.S. citizens or legal residents. So what is the reason for sending ICE there?
Well, look, we also know there's a large illegal Somali community there. There's illegal alien community, large illegal alien community there. You know, if you're a U.S. citizen, you know, you have nothing to fear. We're looking for criminal aliens. And also, if you're a resident alien, you have like a felony conviction by statute, you could be set up for deportation. So we're looking for public safety threats, national security threats, and illegal aliens. Nothing's changed, Dana, from day one. These are targeted enforcement operations. And, you know, the success has been proven in Washington, D.C., New York City, Chicago, North Carolina. I mean, every city we've hit, we've arrested a lot of criminal illegal aliens. I looked at the numbers today, you know, by the end of this calendar year, we're going to be around 600,000 deportation, in the majority of them being public safety threats.
You know, when Bash sneers that all this operation has done is create fear, she skips the part where Biden's policies produce more than 7 million encounters at the southern border and around 2 million known gotaways in just a few years. I mean, that's millions of people who came in without proper vetting, and now Trump's team is trying to unwind that in places like Minnesota, where local leaders openly brag about being a safe haven. So when Homan says they're prioritizing public safety threats in sanctuary cities, that's not spin, that's literally the job.
Are ICE agents stopping people because they look, quote unquote, Somali?
No, they're not. You know, the law requires agents are trained in Fourth Amendment training every 6 months. Border Patrol's trained in Fourth Amendment training. They stop. You can detain and question people for a short period of time based on reasonable suspicion. That's
and what is that suspicion?
Federal statute.
Is it based on how they look?
No, their appearance alone can't raise reasonable suspicion. It's articulable facts, a lot of different facts taken into consideration. And the Supreme Court just backed the Trump administration up on this. I know a lot of the media says, oh, the Supreme Court just justified racial profiling. That's not what the Supreme Court said. Supreme Court said they agree with the way these operations are being conducted because the standard of reasonable suspicion is being used by both ICE and the Border Patrol in the interior operations.
Why do we keep seeing incidents like the one I just played, so aggressively pursuing people as they say they are lawfully in America?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, you know, I started as Border Patrol agent in 1984. Through my nearly 4 decades of work, I can't tell you how many times an illegal alien claimed to be a U.S. citizen. It happens all the time. But it's getting back to what I just said. Reasonable suspicion. If they have reasonable suspicion, stop and question somebody and shortly hold them and detain them briefly for questioning. If they have reasonable suspicion, they can stop. It takes probable cause to arrest somebody and actually, you know, transport and take them into custody. So, you know, I look, threats on ICE officers are up 1,200%. They're being doxxed on social media. They're getting death threats every day. They've been attacked. They've been shot at. And you know, these officers out there look for the worst of the worst, so they're protecting themselves. And I think they're following the law. And if any ICE officer, Border Patrol agent, acts out of policy or does something inappropriate, they'll be held accountable. But we got to remember, I mean, they're under attack.
You know, CNN loves to show the most dramatic clips of ICE teams, but they never mention that federal reports have flagged Minnesota for terrorist recruitment concerns and noted more than 20 Somalis leaving the state to join groups like Al-Shabaab over the years. I mean, this is the same state that just saw a $250 million fraud case on top of other scams that collectively pushed the total well over $1 billion. When you're dealing with that kind of systemic fraud, weak oversight, and a wide open border, sending well-armed agents who know the Fourth Amendment code is just basic public safety, not racial profiling. But let me know what you think. Is CNN's outrage about aggressive ICE tactics real, or just another way to distract from the years of open border chaos and sanctuary city failures? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That stuff really does help us out. Until then, this has been Nerk News. Thanks for watching.
Boy.